And welcome back for another episode of Matt and Michele Outdoors. I'm Matt Matan.
I'm Michele Sheave.
And we are really looking forward to introducing you to Lake Junaluska.
Lake Junaluska.
Now, you were a lot more familiar with the lake than I was, but let me get some of the details out there for everybody first. Lake Junaluska is right outside of Waynesville, North Carolina. It's about a 30-minute drive west of Asheville, North Carolina, and it sits at about 2,500 feet elevation above sea level.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Lake Junaluska, give us some details. You know, you're a lot more familiar with it, and you've got your notes and everything.
I've got some notes.
Yeah, some interesting stuff.
But I did used to live. It's in Haywood County, and which is right. It's still part of the Asheville metropolitan statistical area, which, as you were explaining me, includes Buncombe County. Includes all the counties
Haywood,
right
Henderson
next to
County.
us. Yeah. And so I used to live in Haywood County, not too far from Lake Junaluska, and I used to go there. We'll get into some of the features and things that you can do around there. But as far as the history, Lake Junaluska was named after a nearby mountain, Mount Junaluska, and that was named after an Eastern band of Cherokee leader, Chief Junaluska. And Chief Junaluska was pretty cool because he fought alongside Andrew Jackson and saved his life once at the Battle of the Horseshoe Bend.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
But though later in life he said he regretted doing so.
Yeah. Well, that's cool too.
Yeah, isn't that all interesting?
Yeah.
And then of course Mount Junaluska is no more as far as names, is now the North Eagle Nest Mountain. Do you know where that is? Are you familiar? I am not familiar with that particular mountain. We have so many in the area, and but that's a bit of the history.
Well, it's interesting because when we got to Lake Junaluska on our day trip, you couldn't see any mountains. You couldn't even see houses.
Right. There's some beautiful. We can show you if you're going to watch the video on this. Of course, we're also doing radio, so it's a
theater of the mind.
Theater of the mind. That there was some beautiful fog sitting on the mountains, and as the day kind of unfolds, it gently lifts.
Yeah.
And it's really gorgeous.
For me, because I'm from New England originally,
right?
And when we got there this morning, it was nice and cool, and with the fog and everything, and we got there before a lot of people were there,
right?
And we'll go over some of the details of it, but you know, there's two different ways. Let's go ahead and frame a little bit.
Okay.
Lake Junaluska is a private place.
It is.
It's a private place, and it's the headquarters, international headquarters. Go ahead.
Yes, it's it's like the world headquarters for the Methodists, and not just in the United States, but all over the world. They bring together the different Methodist churches that are everywhere. It's a retreat. It's a conference center.
Yeah. But it's also open to the public.
It's also open to the public, and it is lined all the way around the lake by private houses that are both year-round residences and also transitional summertime type residences.
And also vacation rentals.
Rentals, and they have a pool, they have a tennis court, they have a golf. Oh yeah, you're gonna go. Yeah, I was gonna
get into some of this stuff specific because we each have some stories to tell about each of those things.
Yes.
But also on the lake there are areas of it that are like wooded and overgrown and everything.
Yes.
Because for me as a fisherman, I'm looking for that. So we got there right as the sun was coming up. We were just absolutely what they used to call like pea soup or something like that. You know, it was really thick fog.
It was
beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But we used there's a boat beach by the aquatic center, just north of the aquatic center, right next to it, because the boat ramp there's two ways to access the lake, and this is important to note. Because the boat ramp, it was a little bit rough. It was a little bit rough, and so if people have bass boats and things like that, you need to understand that there are some restrictions.
Right.
You cannot use gas-powered engines pedestrians
Right.
on Lake
Trolling
Junaluska.
motor only.
Trolling motor only.
Mhm.
And also, but it's primarily kayaks and canoes and paddle boards.
Right.
But you can get other boats on there, and there were other boats on
Right.
there today. John boats. I've seen a bass boat on
Right.
there before, but you can only use the electric trolling motors. But there's also the pedestrian walking trail, which
Mhm.
goes around the lake, which
Mhm.
is really popular. How long is
A
it?
3.5 mile trail. I used to do it
Right on the edge of the lake the
It's
whole way.
right on the edge of the lake. The terrain of the walking trail is wonderful because as you go around the lake, it's not just like walking around a fishbowl. You are walking through the woods. You have lots of different views and areas that you can commune with nature. They have a large, we'll get into it, large duck, swan, and other bird population all over, and they
Protected
really,
area,
it's protected. They care about it. And as I was saying, there are houses that live all around there. They have an HOA that takes care of the lake. But again, it's open to the public. It's not a private lake that you can't get on. They
Right.
want you to come enjoy
And
it.
the other thing I was going to say with the boats that you have to be mindful of is because of that walking trail, there's a pedestrian bridge that cuts right across the middle portion of the lake. Because a
Yes.
lot of people, even people in our own area that maybe have driven by Lake Junaluska and they think they know what Lake Junaluska
Right.
is, they may be missing a good portion of the lake because it kind of sandwiches down. It's almost like the shape of
Right.
a peanut.
Yeah.
And so the narrow part and the pedestrian bridge, depending on what side of the lake you're on, you may think the side you're on is the only part of the lake.
Right.
But it actually balloons out into two separate
Well,
parts. The part I knew,
yeah.
you didn't know about.
Well, I know. We were just laughing about that. It's so funny. Go ahead.
But to finish out on the boat situation, getting under that pedestrian bridge, it does rise up on one side, but we were in the canoe, and we had to go under the rise up side, and there wasn't a whole lot of clearance, and we were in a canoe. So if you're in a bigger
small
boat,
vehicle to transverse the lake.
Exactly. So if you're in a larger vehicle, the boat ramp, the full out boat ramp is a little bit rough, and I would scout it before you go out there with a trailer and everything. But if you're going with a John boat, a paddle board, canoe, kayak, going from the boat launch right there by the highway, or if you go in next to the aquatic center, which is the one we used, it's a more central position to the lake that you can launch just for canoes, kayaks, and paddle boats.
Tighter to get in. Yeah.
That's it. It's only for those kind of craft to go ahead and launch, and that's what we used. And so then on the fishing side of it, and then we'll get into all the different amenities and everything. But we got out on the water, and the water was much cooler than most of the lakes we've been fishing this summer.
It was surprisingly.
It's about 10 degrees cooler.
It was surprisingly much cooler, and so that makes me feel like, I mean, we've had a lot of rain lately in the area, and I'm sure that is contributing
and being at
to
2,500 feet elevation too.
But exactly. I mean, I think that's what you get when you are, you're on a lake that's on a mountain. I mean, that's what you get.
So we got out there, and I had never fished it. I'd never been on it. I'd never taken so much as a cast in it, and I didn't like when we went to Lake Adger.
Yeah.
I didn't study it at all.
Right.
I didn't look into it at all. And for an upcoming episode, we actually had an awesome guide. So that's a whole new experience. I've never had a guide, but that's an upcoming. That's
what we do here. We
that's
try
an upcoming episode that you'll get to check out.
Yeah.
And if you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast, you can just click to it if you're getting this later. But anyway, so getting on the lake, trying to decipher it and everything. The water temperature was about 72 to 74 degrees, and it held through the morning.
Yeah.
For folks that may be new to our show, when we go out on the water, we typically hit at daybreak, and then we're off the water by noon. By lunchtime or a little bit earlier for a few reasons. One, we're doing day trips. We want to do other things too.
Right.
Two, Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, it's a temperate rainforest. If you stay out past lunch, not only is it going to get hot, but you're going to get very wet.
Yes.
On most days, you're going to get very, very wet.
We have afternoon showers.
We have afternoon showers almost every afternoon in Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee. And so that is another reason to not stay out on the water, because some of those downpours can be pretty significant. Being in a temperate rainforest.
Yeah, you don't want to be there. You want to be doing something else fun.
So we get out there, and I know the water temperature because we have the depth finder and dual imaging and all that stuff attached to the canoe, and all of a sudden as we're trying to figure out things, we fished the shoreline for a little bit, just kind of reading what it looked like might be there, not knowing what kind of fish are in there or anything, and trying everything. And I wasn't seeing any bait fish. I wasn't getting any hits or anything. So I was like, all right, well, let's head to a different part of the lake. It was kind of shallow where we were at. It was about 4 to 6 feet deep and everything. We started hitting a little bit deeper water, about 15 feet, 15 to 20 feet of water. And all of a sudden on the depth finder, I'm just seeing what looked like a train of fish. I mean, just as we're going along out in the middle of the lake at about, I think it was about 10 to 12 feet or maybe 12 to 15 feet or something like that.
They were just sitting down there.
They were just, as the boat is moving, if you've never used a depth finder, it just scrolls across the screen as you're moving across the water.
Right.
So when you see all these fish, and if people are watching the video, you're going to see images of the screen of my depth finder. I've never seen anything like it. And it didn't stop.
Yes.
I mean,
the whole
lake was like that. So when we were up near the aquatic center of the lake, they were all sitting at about 10 to 12 feet of water consistently. But then when we got down toward where the dam is, the easternmost part of the lake, it was like a blanket of fish at 4 feet deep.
Right.
And as soon as you got to where the depth dropped off away from the shore, it started, and it just continued right across the lake. And we were trying everything. I mean, from fishing the shorelines to fishing based on what we saw on the depth finder and everything else. Between Michele and I, we threw every kind of lure that you could think of because these fish were rough.
I don't think we've ever changed so many lures in one trip.
Well, what's funny is you got to see me attack it like an angler, like when I used to fish tournaments and everything. And early on, remember the prediction that I made based on the patterns I was seeing and the grouping of the fish.
You said I think that there's going to be some crappie in this water.
Yeah, I said based on the patterns and the water temperature and everything else, I'm thinking that there may be there's going to be crappie in here. So we keep trying everything, and with
then
the way
you saw a trout jump, and you're like, okay, wait, now there's trout.
I did see trout jump, and it was a significant sized trout.
Yeah,
it was a very big trout, and it looked like it was a brown trout.
So one of the things that we kind of figured out through the day, and I know you back to your story, but that the crappie, the trout, and what we also assume is probably catfish sitting at the bottom.
Yeah, we did see some.
Those are all edible fishes that so it must be a stocked lake.
Well, and I researched when we got in here into the studio, and it is. They do stock it.
That part. Yeah.
They do stock it with crappie and catfish and trout
and
everything else.
There we go.
So it's
for the vacationer wanting a little.
Yes,
food.
very much.
Yeah.
But when you're out there, if you're an angler, and we focus lots of day trips for local folks here in our region in the Southern Appalachian Mountains, and if you hit that lake, you're going to want to attack it like it's a bass lake.
Right.
There may be some bass in there. I'm a pretty good fisherman. I didn't see anything.
You're a bass master. Don't be shy. Don't be coy.
I'm actually a bass master, but but I didn't see any. I didn't even get a hit. No, wait, I did get 2 hits, but but I really had to pull out all the stops just to get a couple of hits from what could have been bass. So I decided, because of the way the fish were, that we were going to troll in a canoe without a motor, which is fun. We rigged up and we set up some. We tried some different things as we were trolling, but lo and behold, we got into the crappie. Yeah. We were trolling, and I was setting the depth about where they were showing up on the depth finder, and sure enough, we're going along, and I was like, Michele, I got one. Now you have to realize we had been out there, hadn't got a thing, and I'm not used to that. I'm a little bit spoiled, and then I got one, and I reel it in and everything, and lo and behold, beautiful crappie, a good size crappie. Yeah. I was really surprised at the size of the crappie, and so sure enough, that place is loaded with crappie. So if you want to fish it, don't go and read what it looks like it is when you hit the water.
Right.
You don't have to already have a boat, by the way. They have canoe, kayak, and paddleboard rentals there.
You can rent. You can rent what you need.
Yeah, you can just show up. You can rent what you need. Bring the gear out there, and I would just go in with some tiny little jig head grubs or some featherhead jigs, and just float it and fish it between 4 feet and 10 feet. And I think you're probably going to catch quite a few crappie. And you looked up online, when we were, we were heading out and everything. You looked up online and you read about a story of someone sharing how they just loaded up on crappie on that lake.
Yes, they were actually saying, and then they also hit catfish
Hmm.
and crappie, and were just like one after the other. They said that they were, nothing over 5 pounds, but
For the catfish, yeah, because
but
crappie won't ever get that big. Yeah,
yeah,
that
no,
would be
no,
a
no,
world
for the
record. Yeah,
catfish, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So
But anyway, so
anyway, yeah,
it was pretty good, but beautiful. It was very beautiful. We got off the water about 10:30 a.m.
right,
We got out
which
there
is
early.
right when
Everything was
everything's
opening
coming
up.
alive. Yeah,
Yes.
so the
Yep.
pool is opening up.
Yep. The
The
boat
um the
rentals,
boat rentals, they have
the
a
snack
cute little
stand.
snack stand that has like these like icy type things I used
Yeah.
to get with my daughter.
Kind of
And
like, it reminded me of when you go to like a high school football game. And they
yes,
have the concession
yeah,
stand. It
it,
was like
it
kind of like that.
reminded me of summer camp, the
Yes. Yeah.
the store at a summer
Yes.
camp. So and I feel that way, that this place, I feel like it's a place where grandparents come and bring their grandkids, their young grandparents, their young grandkids, uh, to give the parents a break. And we'll take them for a week
Yeah.
and go down to, go to the mountain, and they can run around at the pool, and they can run around in the lake, and they can go to the store, and there's some activities that happen over at the conference
Yeah.
center.
And
So
that's the thing, getting off early too. There's so many activities there. That's why usually
yeah,
we do a lake and then the nearest town,
right,
which would be Waynesville, and there's a lot to do in Waynesville. But
yes,
here we're just focusing in this conversation,
right,
this day trip, to just Lake Junaluska
yes,
itself, because there's so much to do there. And so we have different stories
right,
broken off on our own
yes,
for different things that are there. So first off, we always look at dining and shopping too.
right,
And so you have the Terrace Bistro
uh-huh,
is there available. And by the way, go to lakejunaluska.com just to check for updated hours and everything, with all the COVID stuff and the
very
way it
smart,
changes and everything.
yes.
I don't want
But
to
this
say
was
hours
very
or
active,
days. Very
and
active.
I'll tell you, people jog around the lake. They use it. There were the whole time, even early in the morning. There was a lot of activity around the
Yeah,
lake.
and it really started picking up like
Yeah,
toward lunchtime. So you have the Terrace Bistro. You also have the gift store and public restrooms and things available. So
yep,
you've got some shopping and you've got some
they
eatery
do.
options right
They
there
have nice
on the
things.
lake.
Yeah,
And like I said, you got the campground and the hotel if you want to make it an overnight. They've got vacation rentals and things. But there's a lot of different activities. So first, the swimming pool.
yes.
I'll let you tell a little bit about the swimming pool, because it
Well,
was really beautiful location.
yes.
It's actually on the water. It's in
on
the
the water, and
It's like a dock going out over the
and
water.
it is open, as a public access pool, which, we have the one in Black Mountain is very similar, very
Yes.
nice. You have a really beautiful park setting, to have a pool in. I used to take my daughter, back when she was a toddler, and she just loved getting in the water, and we would just make a day out of it. I think it cost like $5.
Yeah, but again, what
And
really stood out to me is like the pool is almost like a dock going out
yes,
into the lake.
it really
It's
is.
really cool.
It really does give you that vacation feel.
Yeah. Then also there's mini golf. I didn't see the mini golf.
I don't remember the mini golf.
So that's another
I
outdoor
feel
activity
like I
there.
would have done that at some
Yeah.
point.
They also have summer boat tours. So if you're not someone who wants to get out on the water like we do, they do have boat tours that are available to the public. And again, you can go to their website, lakejunaluska.com, to check out schedules
Check
and
that
times
out,
and
yeah.
everything. And then the walking trail, we've talked about that. You used to
Yes.
walk that whole thing 3.5 miles.
Yes, and it was so lovely.
And when you have the pedestrian bridge, that's where the waterfowl protective area is.
Yes.
And so it was a beautiful experience because we got to see them from the water.
Right.
And I'm sure people that are watching the video, we're probably rolling right now some video of the swans and things.
I have a nice one of the swans.
And we got a
going
chance
by.
to talk to Jim, one of the swan
Oh,
caretakers.
okay,
and
hard.
there was a sad
Okay,
part.
This is sad.
But also a really awesome thing that shows you
Yeah.
about the character
The
of people
love.
there, the love that's there.
Yes.
And so we took we were talking for probably about a half an hour. We were talking with Jim, close to it, and just hearing about all the mentorship. And he's been doing it for years, and he still considers himself an apprentice.
Well, he's been doing it for 6 to 7 years,
Yeah.
but the gentleman who started the program, he said, has been doing it for over 15 years
Yeah.
of bringing in the swans,
And beautiful swans.
really taking care of them. They've been adding to their swan program. And I read an article too. I wasn't able to read the whole article, so I'm only gonna give a little snippet. But there was a hurt swan, and the whole community came together to get it better so that it could come back and be re-released. And then it was such a huge thing that happened. And
that's great. But
there's
the
a lot
sad
of love
part,
there. Yes.
for people that don't know, swans, the mortality rate for their chicks is very, very high,
Right.
and even it's a very low percentage of even hatching.
Very, very touchy,
very difficult
species to.
And so on the day of our day trip,
Yeah.
And talking with Jim and everything, they actually lost the only hatchling they had
for this year. And the sad part, it was like he was saying, it was still a I don't know what they call a young swan, a gooseling, a hatchling.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll call it a hatchling. That it still had its baby dew on it, and not it was just growing in its real feathers. And
it was about 6 weeks old.
And so they lost it. Now at this point, we lost our cat today, so the cat came back.
Asterisk, lost, not as in passed away.
Yes.
We couldn't
we
find
literally couldn't find, but at the same time, same thing for the baby swan. I think its name is Segrid.
Or maybe that's what baby swans are called. I don't know.
That's what he called it, so that's what I named it. But they couldn't find it, and they couldn't find.
But the parents were there.
The parents were there. Everyone was there like usual, and the baby swan was not there. My hope and prayers are just that they're going to find him, and I'm going to believe in my heart that they do, and we're going to have to check back in.
Yeah, we'll have to get an update on that.
I'm invested now, but like you said, they really do a good job. They're taking care of their waterfowl. They have such a diverse and beautiful population, and they've really invested in the care, and that means a lot to us.
And here's the thing that stood out to me. You don't realize how big a swan is until you see them next to Canadian geese.
Oh my God,
if you think Canadian geese are big waterfowl, wait till you see them next. They look like little ducks next to swans.
Well, it's comparative. So you've got the swan, and then one step down is the geese, and then one step down is the ducks, and then one step down is like a chickadee.
Yep. But so it was really cool. And then we also saw, now I don't know what they're called around here, but it was basically where I grew up in New England, we used to call them cormorants.
Yeah.
And they're diving black birds.
Yes.
They're underwater swimmers. They swim like otters.
I got one of his feathers.
You got one of his feathers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that was what you got. But he was drying on a log, drying his feathers and everything
after diving.
After diving, and that was just so cool to see it out there. And so the nature there, even though there's so much activity, we still saw beautiful nature out there.
It's protected, and it's the same when you walk around, and I don't know. I just love it.
And
it's a lovely little community.
All right. So another outdoor activity, and this is where my experience comes in. All right. So
Let's
hitting the golf course.
Story.
Woo! Hitting the Lake Junaluska golf course. All right. Now, very
my
important.
God.
Very important.
Totally
now, so here's the thing.
them.
Lake Junaluska golf course. I loved it. Okay, I really loved it. But you need to understand, it may be, and I've played golf in Austria. I've played all over the world, and this was one of the hilliest, most unbelievable elevation change courses that I've played. So much so, they do not allow you to walk the course. You have to use a cart. You have to, because it's just it was unbelievable, and the views and when you're looking off the tee box, and there's this gorge going down a couple hundred feet or a few hundred feet, and then rising back up to a green across this gorge from you. Holy cow! So if you like playing golf like I like playing golf, and that's one of the outdoor activities you want to do, I highly suggest you check out the Lake Junaluska golf course. So we get out there early, daybreak. Again, check the website for hours of the different things they have going on there. But it was a day trip all onto its own. If you want to make it longer than a day, go to the website. You can navigate through everything there, lakejunaluska.com. But we had a wonderful day trip.
Yeah.
Got off the water early so that there's plenty of time to do all the other activities that are there and grab some food and everything. And then we ran over to the Pigeon River, north of
East Fork
of the Pigeon River. We're just going to make quick mention of it, but it's not too far drive from Lake Junaluska, and it was just cool, quiet mountain streams. We're talking above Canton, so we'll save it for another episode.
I would like to save it for another episode because it's
the walking trails and everything.
It's beautiful, and it's near the Pisgah Inn, actually, off of the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Not too far. What's the highway going up there?
251, 253, 251.
Something like that. Anyway, so I just wanted to mention it because we will have a future episode on that.
Google.
But it's just so beautiful and so remote, and some of the hiking trails and everything.
Yeah, it was great.
Before we headed back home, we did run out there real quick, dip our toes in the cold water, and then came home. But just, I want to start mentioning different places that'll be future episodes at the end of each episode that we do.
Yes.
All right, so so that is the report on our day trip.
All right,
out to Lake Junaluska. So
in the bag.
30 miles east of Asheville. Wonderful time, and good for family or retirees or individuals. I like the flexibility of the experience that you have based on your skill set. All right, so that's going to do it for this report.
All right,
appreciate y'all.
Watching.